Awesome. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to today's Revizto webinar. Today we're going to look at the Revizto Phone App and kind of take you through a journey from punch listing to reporting. So we'll cover more on the agenda here in a few. But yeah, on the behalf of the Revizto team, thanks everybody for jumping in here. Really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, hopefully we can share some project efficiencies with everyone. So the Revizto Phone App is available to download from the Google Play and also the App Store, so compatible with both the Android and iOS devices. And I'll leave these QR codes up for a minute. And I think we wanted to do just a quick poll here right out of the gate and see, basically, have you downloaded the Revizto app? If you have, if you haven't, just to kind of compare our own internal metrics. Oh, wow. Lots of people have downloaded the app. So currently at 23 out of 37 have downloaded the app, and then 5 out of 37 are downloading now. Good stuff. Yeah, hopefully if you guys have it, we can show you some good stuff today, how to use it maybe for punch listing efforts, or if you guys have any site observation efforts. And then I'll go ahead and share the results here. So awesome, thanks everyone. Go ahead and turn that off. Just a couple quick housekeeping items to mention. So the webinar is being recorded. We'll make sure to send the recording link out to all the registrants. The chat, so please, by all means, use the chat. I'll have that pulled open on my second screen. If anybody, wants to just add comments or ask questions as we go through. We are going to save Q&A to the end, but, I don't know, if somebody has a really compelling question or maybe has something that I didn't cover in enough depth, right, I can maybe take those as we go. So we'll keep things fairly casual here. And then lastly, if you find this webinar very helpful, or if you did want to keep track of some of the events we have, we've done a ton of field days this year. So if you find one in your local area, you're able to join, please come out. We do share some industry-based knowledge. We have some really good discussion points during our field days. And then we'll have our second Rev Up coming up here in March, and I'll talk more on that towards the end as well. And that's me, David Ray, your host today. So I come to Revizto with a background of architecture. I'm not going to read all this stuff here, but yeah, basically one of the implementation managers here at Revizto. Typically jump in with our design-focused clients and help get things up and running, get projects started, strategize on workflows. Not that you guys can't do it yourself. We just try to jump in and help where we can to make that process more efficient. And I always like to, I'll share my story just briefly. I mean, during my time in architecture, I always found that, you're kind of on this quest of how can I become more efficient? I think in design and construction, for that matter, time is money. So if you have software that helps you become more efficient in your day-to-day activities, just always makes for a better experience in your day-to-day stuff. So I saw Revizto, I was like, wow, this could dramatically help our industry, and was compelled enough to come join the team here. So as for an agenda, we are going to talk about the phone app. We're going to take a little bit of a detour. I think it's worth noting, just going through some of the setup steps that I would recommend prior to bringing the project out on site. So we'll look at some setup steps in the desktop app. We'll jump into the phone app. We'll talk about some of the feature sets, some best practices. And then we'll talk further on the phone app on, just getting ready for the site visit. I want to make sure everybody knows where to find the download for field option. how to use that, what that means, and then we'll run through a couple quick just issue creation examples if you do want to use this for punch listing, site observations, things like that. And then we'll further that into, okay, we've documented some of the field conditions, but how do we get that out into a PDF deliverable? So we'll take another detour into the web workspace and talk about setting up a report and looking at some of the filter options to help drive that report. So we're keeping things pretty concise here. I'm going to talk for maybe 20 or so minutes. We'll keep it very to the point and short. We'll save Q&A to the end and then go through some closing remarks. All right. I'm going to use this screen sort of as a phone app background, but before getting into the phone app, I did want to go into the desktop application and just talk through some of the front-end setup steps that I would recommend. So in terms of punch list and site observations, right, we're talking about a CA phase of the project. So during construction and administration, excuse me, you're all the way at the end of the project. And through that process, I mean, the issue tracker, some projects, this is just a super quick example project I put together for this webinar. But if I go up here to current issues or all issues, I mean, if you're using Revizto from some of the earlier design phases, so maybe I start in SD and I have, design review comments going back and forth, or maybe I'm running clash coordination, in a live project, we see the issue list grow into the thousands, right? So I think the question becomes, if you're going to use the phone app and document some field conditions, is how could I filter for these, fairly efficiently in Revizto? So my recommendation would be utilize the stamps in the project. Again, in the issue tracker, you want a way to be able to quickly whittle this down and quickly get to those, punch list items in the event you need to get back to them and maybe add a note or address some type of markup in the project. So we want a way to generate a filterable item in Revizto that's going to translate not only into the phone app, but also later on when we get into the web workspace and format that report. You want some type of property to be able to filter for. So stamps would be my go-to. There's other ways to do this. I mean, it's software, right? So there's no kind of right or wrong answer. It's really how you guys see this best working. But chances are you might have some clash coordination stamps in here already. You might have some design review stamps that you're using if you're marking up drawing sets. So personally, I would generate my own stamp category. Maybe call it something like site visits, right? And then stamp per kind of interaction you're having out on site. So punch listing, I think, comes to mind for sure when using the phone app. Sometimes we're tasked with, providing site observations as well. So I might have a, separate stamp for that. And I guess my take on stamps is keep these very simple, right? Keep them simple. I can, take these also become a templatable item in Revizto. So keep in mind, we can transfer these in and out of different projects as we, spin new projects up. And the other thing, or the other reason I say that is keep these simple is because you'll have other things you can kind of layer into the stamp as in terms of templating. So when I go to set these up, right, I can generate a new stamp category, different stamps that fall under that category. So I'm able to use my, maybe punch list exterior. And maybe, I don't know, for example, maybe it's a really large project and I need a way to kind of track the different site visits I need to do because I know that I can't, accomplish the interior punch walk in one site visit. So for that, I would recommend, maybe consider a tag for that. Maybe have, various tags based on the dates you're going to be out on site. And that would give you sort of a subcategory to filter for both in the issue tracker, but also the web workspace. So yeah, my approach here, simple is better, I think. Kind of like in design where you might have some scope creep. I've seen that happen in stamp setup as well. So you start with maybe the idea of I need a stamp per master format, spec number. And pretty soon this gets a little bit unwieldy and it starts to balloon into the 50 or 60 range, and it just gets hard to manage from there, I think. So yeah, keep these simple. I could also see maybe these are a little more specific based on the material types you're going to see out on site. So maybe I have punch list masonry, punch list concrete, punch list EPIS, painting, sheet metal. But yeah, again, keeping those very categorized and somewhat simple as you go through it. Let's see, the other one I'll mention here. So at the very, very front end of the project setup, right? And I guess kind of getting into where maybe we want to filter these down a little more. The issue tracker is going to kind of take care of where these stamps are in the project for you. So edit project properties. If you guys have used Revizto, you're very familiar with this, right? We're able to tell Revizto, okay, let's use the levels from this model, use the grid lines from this model, zones if you need to be a little more specific on the different areas you want to filter the issue tracker or report down to. And then simply, kind of going back to the punch list example, the way I learned how to do a punch list is it's very, space by space based. So I'm using these stamps in the project. Let me switch my screen up here. And then I kind of want to know, like, okay, which room is this associated with, or which level was this, Jitboard defect found? And I think the issue tracker does a really good job of just locating where in the project those stamps occur, right? Without any really manual effort or front end setup. You're just simply placing the stamps in the model or the drawing. And then you'll notice here in the issue tracker, it's picking up, okay, it's closest to this grid intersection. It's within this room. It's on this level, space area zone, if that's needed. And then the benefit of that, I can apply a filter to the issue tracker based on, maybe I have stamp first, and then I go into, level or room and kind of whittle it down that way. And then we'll look at the web-based side of things and how that shows up as well. I think those are pretty powerful aspects here. So yeah, just a little bit on the front end in terms of setup. I'll switch gears here and pull open the phone app. All right, so just talking a little bit about the UI in the phone app. So at the very bottom of the screen, you'll have the issue tracker. We can sort of meander over here to the 2D environment. We'll have the 3D environment as well, where we can navigate the BIM model on a phone, which is pretty incredible. And if I go over here to more, that's where I can get into, if I need to switch projects, if I need to get into preferences, et cetera, et cetera. This is also, once I click more, this is where I would find the download for field option. What that's going to allow me to do is basically cache all of the project data. So the issues, the 2D drawings, the 3D model are going to load up on the device. And that would make the project fully accessible and functional without a Wi-Fi connection. The phone app does work on a data connection, but if you anticipate maybe spotty coverage where you're going, or maybe, it's kind of in and out, for example. So yeah, super helpful if you do want to take it out offline. Definitely take advantage of the download for field option. The other one I'll mention, so if I go into preferences and then graphics, so yeah, we see models that are very small and also, humongous high rises in Revizto. So obviously the phone device can, handle so much, but we built in a tool here to sort of help if you do notice some crashing as you move around the 3D environment, or maybe it lags a little bit. So you can kind of scale this up and scale this back to adjust the memory that's used by the phone. All right, so I'll talk a little bit about each environment. I didn't really want this to be kind of a button pushing webinar, but we'll get into some other stuff here as well. So in the issue list, so that's where we can reference issues. So we'll have the pretty typical issue tracker settings down here at the bottom, where we can get into the info, right? If we need to adjust the assignee or priority level. The chat window, where we can drop comments or add photos. Markup, if we need to, maybe adjust or change a markup as we're going. And then 2D and 3D kind of based on the issue data. 2D workspace in the phone app. So you'll have kind of taking the place of the top toolbar you'd have in the desktop app. You sort of have a slider over here to look through some of the tools. So you'll have the ruler icon, the split mode, new issue, the stamp tool, right? Which I recommend setting that up prior to getting out on site. Issue pins, markups, and halftone. And then something I was super impressed with when this came out, I'll get into one of the drawings here. I'll go into the second floor plan. But just a lot of the functionality that was retained between the desktop app to the phone device app, right? If I need to navigate some of the sheet sets here, you'll notice all the reference heads also show up. So if I want to go from an overall floor plan, maybe to an interior elevation or a section, maybe there's an enlarged floor plan in here somewhere. But yeah, a lot of those are automatically hyperlinked, and you can sort of move from drawing to drawing based on these view references here. I'll switch over to the 3D environment, and yeah, same motif here. So we have a bottom toolbar. We can get to our home viewpoint, for example, kind of a nice way to orient yourself in the project. Walk mode, gyroscope, ruler, 2D, 3D split, issue creation, stamps. Yeah, we can toggle our grid line on. One that I find really helpful, and I would use primarily during the punch walk. So if you notice, there's 3 dots up here at the top right-hand corner. That'll pull open your viewpoints, room tool, load, unload models, appearance templates. So some of those I probably would set up back in the desktop app, but I think the room tool is super helpful for navigating, especially with something like site observations or punch listing, in that this is just going to teleport me around the project based on the room data location from the model. The other one I'll mention here, and I would definitely use in tandem with the room navigation, is the gyroscope. So I'm able to navigate the model on a space by space basis. And then if I turn on my gyroscope, basically I'm just pointing my phone, right? I'm rotating my phone around. And with that rotation, I'm able to kind of navigate the BIM model. So I would find that super efficient if I did want to, drop comments or add photos in the 3D environment, navigate with the room, toggle on my gyroscope, and I'm able to kind of look around here and say, okay, we got something going on with this JIT box. Maybe there's some paint touch up or, JIT board stuff we need to document. All right, I'll switch over to 2D because I think there's some efficiencies to cover here as well. So just navigating the phone app from the 2D environment. And what I would do with this is I would turn on my split screen. And reason being is basically anywhere I touch here in the plan, it's going to teleport me to that space in the model. So let me get a better view. And then if I wanted to, for example, go over here to my mezzanine dining room, simply, touching where I want to go on the plan view navigates me to that space than in the model. So kind of two methods I wanted to cover in terms of navigating. And then I'll talk a little bit about, when I go in here, maybe I'm using this method to navigate. From the 3D environment, I'll grab my stamp tool and go into my site visits. Maybe there's something on the interior. So I grab that stamp, place it on the portion of the model I'd like to include on my report. Hit done, and then we'll have a set of tools down here after the fact or after we generate the stamp issue. So if we need to take a photo, mark something up, add some text. I think the rectangle tool is pretty helpful. We can be pretty specific on where the issue is. And yeah, we can adjust the stamp, add an arrow if we have a pen or need to scribble something, also accessible. And then, yeah, the phone app is pretty powerful. I'll turn it on real quick and take a quick photo. But pretty common in terms of punch listing or site observations, right? You want to document some things with photo documentation. And then, yeah, as I go down here, you can see it also picks up from the phone app kind of issue location data. So it's picking up on the level that was placed, the grid, intersection, room, etc. Let's see. So yeah, just a quick issue creation example. And then what I'll do from there is jump back into the desktop app. And we'll talk about, when we get ready to put together a PDF deliverable of some of the findings out on site. Just a quick example of the web workspace and how to generate a report. So from the issue tracking environment, I can go to the web workspace from here. So right under help, the envelope with the letter sticking out of it, that will launch the web workspace. It takes me right into the reporting system, but this is where you would generate analytics out of the issue tracker with the dashboards, web-based issue tracker, and other settings here. So I'm going to sort of minimize that and just go through a quick report example. So I did one already, but I'll do just a really quick one here. Punch list, we can give it a title. The visibility is really based on, Revizto is kind of this shared environment, right? So who do we want to see that's active in the project, the reports I'm setting up? So you'll have visible to the owner, which I would only have visibility of that, or visibility to all invited, which would share with the entire project team. And then the type, so we can send these out as Excel or PDF files. So I think for punch listing efforts, I think a PDF would be probably more appropriate. And then some of the PDF options, so include company logo, include issue comments, text only. So this one I could see going either way. I could either turn that off or turn that on. And what that's referencing is basically if I'm, looking at some field punch list items, and maybe I'm using the chat here to add notes or make comments as I go through my walk. The other way I've seen that work is the title of the issue. So you can edit the title if you need to add a brief description. So yeah, kind of two ways to go there. If I use the title, I would turn this off. If I use the chat, I would probably turn this on. And then issue attachments. So I would make sure this is toggled on if we add any photos or sketches or anything like that. Issue field changes, I would leave this off personally. I mean, that's going to give you kind of a running history of anything in the issue tracker that was adjusted. For example, if I'm adding watchers or adjusting the assignee. And let's see, issue markup changes, I would probably leave that off as well. Bigger images, I would definitely have toggled on for a punch list report. And then here, additional fields. This is where I would add in the data for my spatial awareness of where all those issues exist. So additional fields, we can have, level, grid, room activated. We can, filter for issues. So we can add a condition of, and I'd probably use either stamp or stamp category. So stamp, just a quick example, is any of, and then I would pick my field observation stamp. So that's going to give me any of the stamps that were used out on site, right? I can include those in a report. And then we can add conditions, right? I threw out an example of tags, so we could add that as a secondary condition. And then, yeah, so we can hit save here. That's going to generate my punch list report. And then last step for these, you'll go in and hit send now. So that's going to send to my email. And then we can backdate this if needed. So it's going to send out to my email. I can download the report. The alternative method is to come up here under tools and we can look at report history. So that'll give me all the reports that I've generated. An example of the one I just did here. So we'll have the report title, company logo, project thumbnail, and then we get into the report itself. So this will be with bigger images applied. You'll have some of the issue location data, everything tied to that stamp, and then photos and, et cetera. All right, so Deidre, I think we have one last poll, right? If you want to launch that. And then, oh man, 1 minute left. So yeah, we'll try to cover questions. Looks like Michael asked, is there a hover favorites info function for the phone app? To be honest, I've never tried. Let me try real quick. Oh, there is. If you press and hold, Michael, it will give you the option to pull open the object properties from the phone app. That might be the way to go about it. And then Deidre, unless I'm missing something, was that the only question? Awesome. So it looks like the majority of the group did know that you could use the phone app and reporting system for punch listing. And some of you didn't. So awesome. And then 4 out of 37 said, tell me more. That's probably internal people. Just kidding. Okay, contact us. Couple ways to get a hold of us if needed. And then we'll have our second annual user conference coming up here, March 18th through 20th, Denver, Colorado. If you're able to come out, it's a great time. We share some, oh, sorry, another question. Nick asked, are there any plans for possible augmented reality overlays? Good question. More to come on that, Nick. I don't know how much of that I can share, but you can tell by my response, we may or may not add that in. But yeah, good question. Oh, Graham's here. Hey, Graham. When is the second level certification coming out after the conference? I cannot attend this year. Oh, wow. Congratulations. Deidre, I don't know. Do you want to add, do you have any details on the second level certification? When to anticipate that?
Graham, this is Val. We're still working on putting together the certification expert level 2. So we'll be able to give you more details about that after Rev Up to get an idea of. We hope it's going to be sooner than the amount of time it took us to launch it after Rev Up for expert level 1 this year. So that I can promise you, but I do not have a date yet.
Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. I know it's a quick one, but please reach out if we can help any further here. And yeah, thanks, everyone, for taking the time. Mike said thanks. Yeah, we'll go ahead and end it there. Thanks again, everyone, and look forward to seeing you at a field day, and hopefully you're able to make it to Rev Up.